In this video, I'm going to show you how to add your podcast to a Facebook page. Now, you may not have known that Facebook allows you to now embed your RSS feed right into your Facebook page, and it's something that Facebook and I would say some other social media platforms are rolling out more features within the audio consumption market. So not only are there podcasts being embedded into Facebook pages, and you can actually just create a page and label it as a podcast page so that you know that is the main purpose of that page, and then embed your feed into it. But there are also features like audio rooms, and so far it's being rolled out but only to be used with people's personal Facebook profiles. Hopefully they will roll it out for pages to use. That way podcast pages can create live audio rooms, which I think would be brilliant, and it's probably an opportunity that is being missed. So hopefully they roll out that feature to pages soon. And also in social media platforms like Twitter has developed Twitter Spaces, which is also a live audio room. I believe most of this has been generated from the app that made a big splash, Clubhouse, which was mainly an audio platform. I believe it still is. I wasn't on there because I didn't have an iPhone, and so suffice to say, there's a lot going on within audio. Podcasts are becoming more mainstream, or maybe more popular. So that is what I'm going to show you today, how to add your podcast to a Facebook page. So you open up your app and you go to menu and select pages, and then on the top you click create, and this will allow you to create a new page. Then you can select the category. In this case, we're going to choose podcast. Then you name the podcast page. Then you add your profile picture and cover photo, which you could make in Canva. Then you update your page info. This allows you to put in a description for your podcast. You can enter a phone number or choose not to put one. You can put in an email address or choose not to have one. And you can also put the hours of availability. Then you can select podcasts in the settings, and this will allow you to add your podcast. So it will ask you to put in your RSS feed URL. You have to go to your podcast host in order to copy the RSS feed and then place it into this option. Once you do that, it will ask you to authenticate your podcast. So they will send the email to the email address that is associated with your podcast, and once you get the code, you'll be able to authenticate it and your podcast will be published. I will say that some of the features may not be available depending on the device that you have. So whether it be an iPhone, an iPad, an Android phone, or Android tablet, and the other devices that are out there, because there are other operating systems, and then whether you are on like a PC or a Mac, different features are rolled out differently and also based on your location. So for example, in Trinidad and Tobago, where I'm from, Reels took like forever to come, and I only know that from my best friend because she's on Instagram, and she's like, we don't have Reels, and we only seeing all this hype about Reels, which is a new TikTok was in our country, no problem, but I don't know what was the problem with Reels. So we probably even had YouTube Shorts before Reels, which is ridiculous, but I can't confirm that because I'm currently not on Instagram. Anyway, so one thing that was a pet peeve of mine is that in order to authenticate your podcast, which is what you have to do with any type of podcast player, basically. So if you want to get into the Apple podcast directory, or you want to get into Radio Public, TuneIn, anywhere, you have to authenticate your podcast. And what happens is, whatever information that you have signed up with your podcast host is the information that these other platforms will pull from. So the email address that I had attached to my podcast host was actually one of those email addresses that you create from your domain name. So it would be like info or hello at whatever.com or .org, right? So it will be like one name at your domain name, like your website domain. And so that's what I had, because I was going like all out with this, like having, like business emails basically, and not like a free email like Hotmail, Gmail, or etc. attached to the podcast, and having its own website and all that. Like I went out full works, and for whatever reason I couldn't authenticate with Facebook because I wasn't getting the email, and I kept refreshing, I kept doing it over, and I didn't understand why. And I was like, you know what, let me change the email address attached to my podcast with my podcast host and see if that's the issue. And lo and behold, that is the issue. I literally put one of the Hotmail addresses that I had, and boom, got the email to authenticate. So if you run into that same problem, I would suggest that you just change your email if you don't have like one of those fancy emails as yet. And I did that so that I could do email marketing for the podcast. But anyway, if you don't have that fancy pants email as yet, just change it to one of those free emails, Hotmail, Gmail, whatever. Get the authentication code, authenticate it, and then just go back and change the email to whatever email you want it to be with your podcast host, and that should fix that problem. Now, I did this, and I have yet to see any podcast being propagated on my page. Now, when I looked into this, they said, well, the features are still being rolled out, and you can only see it like on the app version. So you can't see it on the desktop version, but you can see it on the app version. But for some reason, on my iPad, it like doesn't have the most updated version of the app. Like I feel like the iPad version of any app is like an afterthought with most companies, and I would even dare say with YouTube, because there are some things I just don't see. Do you know how long community posts are coming? It's been coming for years that I've been watching YouTube on my iPad. I don't see any community posts. I don't see any stories. I've only now started seeing the little categories that they put on the top, right? And which does not categorize my stuff well at all. And also, I don't see any ads. Like, I don't know what it is, but I don't see any ads. But if I go on my phone, but that is an Android phone, by the way, I see ads. But I've been so accustomed watching YouTube without ads, like I can't stand it. I don't even have like the patience to like wait until it's able to be skipped. Like I just want to skip it now, because I'm so used to watching videos without ads. I don't know what it is, but I'm not complaining. But I'm just saying that based on your device and the app that you have, you may not see it. So that's why, even though I authenticated my podcast and I attached it to my Facebook page, I probably need to go on a phone and see if it's working. But I don't see it from my iPad, which is what I use to do everything. I use it to basically be like my mini computer, my camera, everything. And that's the same thing with Twitter Spaces. My friend who has an iPhone, she's able to like go into Twitter Spaces and see Twitter Spaces, but I can't from the iPad. So I definitely need to get like a better phone. My phone right now cannot hold even WhatsApp. Like right now I'm trying to update WhatsApp and reinstall WhatsApp, and it's just not working. So I need an upgraded phone to even have like multiple apps and to have like proper storage space on it to even like do all of those things. But anyway, I've talked a lot about podcasts and of course alluded to the fact that I do have a podcast, but the podcast is not business related and it's not about making money or anything like that. It's more of a passion project. But as with anything, podcasts can be used for business. So only if you all are interested in seeing like how to set up a podcast, at least how I set up mine and the promotional strategies that I am using. And at this point in time, I only started my podcast like a few months ago and I don't post as regularly. So like I post every 2 weeks because that's all I can manage with everything else that I'm doing. But I still have to market it because podcasts need marketing. So if that is something you want to see, like the progress of building up a podcast and then promoting a podcast, let me know in the comments. Otherwise I won't really touch on it anymore because it's something that you don't necessarily want to see. I may make 1 or 2 videos that kind of ties in with social media, but for the most part I won't go deep unless you ask me to. So let me know in the comments and I'll see you in my other videos.